Welcome back, everybody. Welcome back to the canyon. Welcome back to what is almost certainly a Junkview, for which I am irrationally excited because it's a data point. We love a data point. It's also, I feel like it's not a circle. It's an ever expanding spiral. We love the cheapest tire we can find. Not too long ago. Okay, let's preface. The thoughts, the excitement, the thoughts are so jumbled. Some time ago, we tested this tire. You can tell it's been used. I ordered these off of Amazon because they came mounted on wheels and I wanted the wheels that they were on. And then I saw these and I was like, that is a straight up LT. And they said road tires on the side. OGRC road tires. And they just threw all the fonts at it and blank on the other side. And I was like, we got to give these a try. Sometime later, a friend, associate, and patron of the canyon was browsing the internet and found, yes, the counterpart, off-road tires, which are even more LT. Honestly, I gotta say, like, seeing that uniform of a 5-lug across orientation, 5 across is not uncommon. 5 across where it's basically just one Rice Krispie repeated over and over again is kind of wild. You don't see it very often. The excitement builds. The excitement builds because if you look right over here, yeah, there it is. Mix Racing. Mix Racing! The makers and or distributors and or purveyors of one of the worst clone tires ever tested, the clone of the Mix Racing Hustler, and still till now, the best clone tire that has been released, the Mix Racing, we call it the Fusk because it is a fake tusk. It looks so much like a tusk that if I don't show you the sidewall, I would ask you which one is a tusk and which one isn't. Now, knowers of the know will know that the little relief lines, little sipes, are a little too deep. J-Concepts green has that little kind of a sheen to it. They threw all the fonts at the tire. Mix Racing crawler tire, J-Concepts tusk. These are really quite good. And they are still able to be found on the corners of the internet for about $25 for a set of 4. It's not bad. Now, if you can afford the $50 that they are here in America, and it isn't like places in Europe where they've said, yeah, I would like to get some tusks, but they're $90. Those Mixed Racing are absolutely a viable alternative. These are heavy. They are very thick. Maybe the thickest 1.9 tire I've ever felt. As such, being, what does the sidewall claim? 116 by 42? I don't know about that. That already looks wider than 42. We're gonna cram a super softy green in it. You can't fit a Canyon Custom in there without cutting down the inner part. It will not fit. These are not there. You can kind of see by looking at the angle. The inside of this tire is that distance because if it's 42 wide, as it claims, inside, I don't think it's 35 millimeters wide. So these will actually kind of swell it out a little, or they would if they weren't incredibly soft. This is like putting Play-Doh inside of a tire. So the greens are really only suited to stuff that's either super lightweight. Actually, it doesn't really. It just kind of really squares it off. That's what we're going to do. The Injora silicone is working its way into becoming one of the most commonly used inserts for the test protocol. And it needs to be because the included foam, pardon me, baseline, the included foam that came with these is what I call undersize, oversize. It's too wide. It's not tall enough. Even for how thick these are, it's not tall enough. Too wide, not tall enough. And the hole in the middle is so big that the beadlock ring just falls through it, so they would slide all over the place. That's before we get to, I would consider this to be medium hard, not quite as firm as something from the sofa cushions that come from RC 4-wheel drive, but firm nonetheless. You will not get a lot of deflection out of those. We are applying the bubble juice, the juice for blowing bubbles, not because, and this might be the first, second, or third time that I can think of it occurring, not because the compound is sticky, but because that beadlock lip is so thick, it doesn't want to press down. So I did what I always do. I pre-mount the first three, and then I mount the last one. These are extraordinarily easy to mount, and they should be. It's not a single-stage foam. The carcass is very thick. It has a silicone in it, so you don't have to cross-tighten. You don't have to do any of that. You put a screw in it, you rotate it, you put another screw in it. You just go around in a circle until you have all 6 screws installed. And then you go about your business. For some reason, peering around the bench, I think I only have 5. These are not going to debead. I don't think you could debead these. That beadlock lip, we're gonna run it with 5. Unless, if between now and when we go to mount it up, if I find the 6th one, I'll put it on. This, oh my goodness. I have one of those 3-foot wide rolling magnets, and I roll it over the course. I just found it. It fell into a hole in the bench. I can't get it out. I have one of those 3-foot wide rolling magnets, and I roll it around the course every now and again. Beadlock screws and body clips in huge numbers. They fall out quite. Oh, you got me. You got me. I almost did it. 116 by 42. Let's see. I'll be the judge of that. I will be sugared. That is 116 millimeters tall. That is 116 millimeters tall. That is 44 millimeters wide on the green, which pushes it out. They definitely got one thing right. We don't know how much of these are going to be off-road, but they definitely got the portion of it right about it being 116 by 42. Spot on. What do we got? Oh. That used to be a death knell. It was a death knell in the days before. The sauce. Something about the sauce. We've had some tires Starsky it up pretty good on the work mat, and then just kind of work out on the rocks. So I don't know how that works. I've also experienced some tires relatively recently. Ningway Burvis jumps to mind, that were really heavy in the lug noise category, but actually kind of serviceable. I don't know. They are defying conventions, because more often than not, what is happening in the facilities that produce these tires is they are taking rubber with some stuff in it, and they're pressing it into a mold, and then they're making a tire, and they're shipping it out. It is round. It represents a tire. It runs the gamut, from the ridiculous to the sublime. We've seen truly, truly awful. Then every once in a while we get a gem. And there's not a lot of gems. As I had mentioned briefly in passing, the Tire Test Protocol spreadsheet has some 150 tires or thereabouts on it. And of those 150, it's definitely not half that you should buy. I would be surprised if there are 40 tires that are up in that top section, like worthy of purchase. So I don't know. We don't know until the things out there tell us. So we take the Mix Racing off-road tire, and we hope that it at the very least can exceed the capacities and capabilities of the OGRC on-road tire, which was, we got a little Starsky. It's got one size of lug, evenly spaced. There's less open space. Anyway, we'll talk about that out there as we head out for another, maybe a quick view, maybe a junk view. Slick Rock will let us know, and then we will find out together. The true and inescapable beauty of mixed racing is that you can have no expectations. If we had pulled an axial tire out of a box and it's an R35, we have some expectation. R35 has let us down too many times. But mixed racing has made one of the worst tires, like bottom 10. They've also made a tire in the top 20. That's pretty crazy. I don't know if anybody else has done that. So the mixed racing off-road. Ooh. Okay, that was pretty bad. That was pretty bad. We'll give it a second. Yeah, buddy. Okay, go to the easiest, kind of the cheat corner over here. We just had to, that was 72% throttle. I hit walking cruise, and we zipped right to the top. Now, if we turn that down, oh yeah, just crashes right through a wall. I have to ask you at this moment, Kool-Aid Man is the drink, right? Like, he's not the container. That would be weird. Is he? But then again, is he the drink? Because Kool-Aid comes in all kinds of flavors, and I've only ever seen the Kool-Aid Man red. So is the stuff in Kool-Aid Man not Kool-Aid? These are questions. Truly terrible. He knows how to self-right though. Oh, these are really quite bad. Maneuverability is not terrible. Like, when you turn in, they turn in. But in terms of the traction generated by the combo of the compound and the composition, the layout of what the tire looks like, just really, really bad. Yeah. I can't say that we can only go up from here. There's still a little bit of room to go down. So while Slick Rock may have been the tone setter, I think we're really going to get the big determiner here. It has to just be how tight the lugs are spaced, combined with just a compound. They felt kind of sticky. They're kind of... We're honest, this is kind of unique. There was a point there for just the fleetingest of moments. That tire actually grabbed and pulled that vehicle forward. And then it was almost as if someone said, wait, hold on, we're not supposed to do that. And it just fell back down. Like, that looked solid. Okay, right here, grab that edge. Right? then at the same time, there are momentary hesitations. This tire clocks out on brake. He's like, I'm taking my 5. And just traction falls away. Again, these, despite saying off-road on the sidewall, look more on-road than the OG RC on-road tires did. This is not a maneuver that you can perform with a tire producing any amount of grip. How do we do that? But then also, let's see if I can get to it. Do this. It makes no sense. It makes no sense. Someone in the comments is inevitably going to say, cut some lugs off. No! You can't cut this into a good tire. You can make it less worse. There are good LT radials. Bounty Hunters. Proline Toyos. If you want just a full LT radial looking tire, there are plenty of them out there. I come from a position of believing that we don't need more. It's so strange. It's grip and slip, right? You need the right amount of grip and the right amount of slip to get through that to get out of that little pocket. These do it by having not enough grip to do it and too much slip as well. The lug noise is actually pretty low because there's so many lugs. Yeah, it's like being on ice. I feel like if they just had one singular lug, I feel if it was just a slick, I feel like we would have a bit more consistency. There is really kind of nothing in the way of a side lug. I'm starting to hear a little, like the lug noise sounds more like crackling. If these are as bad on wet as I think they might be, we might end up, because it side hills well enough, we might end up with one of those scores that has the massive disparity. Because I can't give this tire the score I want to give it. I give it the score it gets. Where can we get? There's a little bit of hop. It's not just a dead spin. There's a little bit of hop, which means the lugs are, like, they're trying. They're just not doing it. Now let's try the wrap. Ooh, very nearly. Very nearly. Come on, come on, come on, get over it. And then we get there and we just got nothing. Oh, there we go. Decent on the descent. I would not deduct. Not a lot of hop there. A little more bean. was just a split second that it caught, and I wasn't ready for it. I couldn't predict. There we go. Like, we're doing the surge, and we were falling backwards. Like, it would surge forward and then slide, and surge and slide. Yeah, I have no idea where this score is going to end up. I have none. I mean, based on what we saw for initial forward drive, they've only gotten better. But at the same time, you can tell by the hobble bobble how we're kind of surging. It's not a mechanical, right? It's not bound. It just quite literally does not have enough traction. The lugs are so tightly packed that even when I get into a burnout like this, oh, come on, come on. We might have. We might have fired a little life into him. Nice. Do you like to drive with violence? If yes, this might be the tire for you. This is, I feel, this is what would happen if you took an actual rock crawling, like if you went rock crawling in a real vehicle with you inside of it, not tiny toy car version, just with the tires that came on it from the dealership. Some like Bridgestone LTs with like, when you dare to look too closely at the sidewall, it's like traction B, treadwear 700, temperature C, like the real world RTR tire. I've seen tires this bad before. It just seems like they can't do this. So you could do something else. But life is too short. I think in the best case scenario, a little something might stick in my memory of the mixed racing off-road tire in that it could do some things. It couldn't do enough to save itself. Because for every instance it shows you that it has enough drive to actually get somewhere, it will then show you in 2 instances it doesn't have enough drive to go anywhere. If what we've seen so far is any indication, should bump. It should self-right reasonably well. It is the tire that is receiving higher numbers, not high numbers, less low numbers, with the least amount of traction. The bump is terrible. You legitimately, it's like a 60 to 70% pull to bump up onto anything. And even then, you have no confidence as to where you're going to land, how you're going to be oriented. It just, I mean, what this tire can do is spin. Like you could just, here we are. You just leave it as long as you want. It's going to do that. it seems to be, all I can guess, having done this a couple times, if all 4 tires are working together perfectly in concert at any given moment, it can do work. As soon as you take one tire out of the equation, things go astray. It self-rights well. Thickness of carcass, I'm guessing. It makes the shoulder of the tire act real sharp. That's a good self-right. There's so little traction, and there's basically no side lug, that we're only using just the very shoulder, the very pointy, sharp edge of the shoulder. So if you were to drive these for a fragment of eternity, and you could wear that edge down, I think all the traction would be gone completely. I don't know explicitly what these are for. They're for going off-road, I guess? It does make it easier in the edit and upload process because, as I have said in the past many times, I am far more likely to tell you what not to buy than I am to tell you what to buy. The S tier, the imaginary S tier, is very sparsely populated. Tires like the J-Concepts Tusk exist in the S tier. Everybody, well, first off, they make them in every size you can think of, except maybe 1.7. So you can get a J-Concepts Tusk and put it on anything, and it's going to work really quite well. And ordinarily, in a 1.9, they're $25 a pair, which is a comfort zone. They're really receptive to inserts. So mixed surface on these is the best that they've done. This stuff right here, if you're trying to assemble the most economical trail vehicle that is very, very, very rarely going to go on rocks, you could run these and they would last a long, long time. But I mean, I would prefer if you didn't. If the best we can say of a tire is it's not as bad as this, comparison is inevitable. But if that comparison is this bad tire isn't as bad as this other bad tire, that's not good. That's not good. Now, is it better to be a not completely awful with some spark of potential than to be almost good enough? Kinda, because the tires that are almost good enough tend to cost like $30 a pair, and Mixed Racing sells AliExpress specials that you're usually looking at $15 to $25 for a set with foams that you're going to throw away immediately. But $25 a set, we can forgive quite a lot. We've gone and done the pre-math. Now we just need to see it on the wet. And if this is what you can do on dry, your wet performance is not going to be great. We can't even park him in the usual spot because we can't make it to the top of the hill, which is why he got a really terrible score to start. Now, that terrible score is going to impact his total. I think that's kind of obvious. But he also didn't do enough. Ooh, they have a delightful rubber glove squeakiness. And, you know what? It's not a 5. Oh, hold on. Hold on. Did you see that? Get right here. That's real good. That's real good. I'm probably going to have to use the double microphone for this one because I know the noise canceling is going to squash that out a little bit. Oh, yeah. Want a little less jump to it? Right about there. That's the point where there's like the threat of we might actually move out of the hole. So I pre-mathed this to the point where I did make an assumption here, which was I didn't think these were going to be absolutely fails in wet, and they're not. They are like a little better. They're equally terrible, but they're not worse. They might be a little bit better. Usually I go in like 1 or 2 tenths. It's not going to make a difference. It's 85.0. And oddly, the 80s are not heavily populated on the leaderboard. There's about 12 tires in the 80s, ranging from an 89.1 to an 82.7. So there's about 10 or a dozen tires in that spot. An 85.0 puts the Mix Racing off-road tire directly between the 2.2 Copserci Taun and the 1.9 Hot Storm Sawtooth, both of which were absolutely and utterly forgettable. Should also be pointed out that that is just above, like a 1.5 above the old S3 King Trekker, sadly. And just a few points below that are the crystal pins, which were dog toys that we put on Tamiya semi wheels. So here you're getting the performance modestly better than a dog toy and still somehow worse than the Hot Storm Sawtooth. Oh, Captain, we're starting to get a lot of... Oh, she's trying to shake herself apart. Mercy. He called for mercy, and we rewarded. So there's really no point in the Mixed Racing off-road tire. If you're going to build something to put on a shelf and you inexplicably need a like 4.75 inch LT radial, I mean, even then, I try to put a silver lining on everything, right? Everything isn't abjectly terrible. Even if the silver lining is this tire was terrible, the 80s in the scores are so populated by tires that just there's no purpose to these tires. It put them down in the list. We had to test these. We had to. It was an imperative because we already tested an on-road tire that says on-road on the side. We had to test a tire that says off-road on the side. We're still running down that hill to catch them all. And man, I mentioned it in passing earlier. There are so few tires actually worth buying. So few tires actually worth buying, and this is not one of them. So if you're on a tight budget, you buy Endura S4 comp pins. It's the tight budget tire, right? Fake tusks, a little bit more expensive. Those are what need to be. These are all being held up against. I'm not holding these up against tusks, megalithics, Proline Toyos, stuff like that. We're holding them up against cheap, dependable performance. These are cheap. They're not dependable. And they did not build them with performance. So I do apologize for how it ends. Sometimes they can't all be winners. Everything is not awesome. Except, you know what? You're all awesome. You come here and you watch the videos, even if it's for crap. Even if it's for a video that's something no one should ever buy. So, I look forward to seeing you in the next installment of one of these, or a better one, hopefully a better one. I hope that in between now and then you'll win, and I'll do your very best to have a good run, everybody. We will see you again here from the canyon. Baseline is like, that's 2 in a row. His last test were the Stank Industries, where he got fitted with a rollometer. Hey, you rolled over less today. Not a lot less, but you rolled over less. He's just like, could you please buy some decent tires for me to test? And my response is, buddy, I'm trying. I'm really trying.